Good morning, everyone. I hope you've had a heavy breakfast because you're definitely going to feel hungry after seeing these wonderful recipes. So, hello all. We are delighted to welcome Chef Vijay. He's a self taught culinary artist whose food philosophy is deeply rooted in tradition, sustainability, and cultural representation. Vijay's journey began in the heart of South India, learning from family kitchens, traditional healers, food researchers, and master chefs. His travel across the region shaped his understanding of the emotional and ecological power of food, guiding him towards the creating the meals that not only nourishes the body but also connect us through the land and heritage. His awareness led him to reimagine food with a purpose founding Mayam Past Food. It's an experimental kitchen near Oroville, Pondicherry, that creatively revives the ancestral culinary wisdom using the local, seasonal, and mindful ingredients. We're happy to have him with us today for this session on deconstructing recipes from both traditional and modern lenses. So, before we begin, I would like to have a small disclaimer. So, please note that all the Rasapanchaka details that we will be providing here is based on the ingredients but not on the complete recipe. Also, this webinar is not a cooking class. We just try to focus perspective of a culinary that Vijay will be speaking about. And I will try to deconstruct the recipe in terms of Ayurvedic perspective and nutritional aspects of the recipe. And also, please note, we have around six recipes. So we will be taking all the questions and queries only after the session ends. So we will have a 15 minutes of question and answer segment at the end of the webinar. Also, this webinar is live streamed on YouTube. So you can, if there are more than 100 participants, you can view it on YouTube and we will be uploading the video on the YouTube after a month. So if you are interested in learning how to prepare the recipes, we encourage you to get in touch with Chef Vijay directly. We will be providing you the details of connecting to him directly. So I will hand it over to Mr. Vijay now. He will take you through his journey and then we will try to see the recipes. Over to you, Vijay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Megha and Sonia, for this opportunity. I feel extremely lucky and elated to be associated with TDU because you guys are doing cutting edge work in this field. I visited your campus and all the experimentation in the lab kitchens, and I'm super excited to be part of it in some way. So, to start with, to give you a perspective of what is the recipes, I felt it is important to explain how it started for me and the core ideas that I believe in when it comes to cooking. So, of course, health was never a primary objective for me. It was always a consequence of trying to find a balance in the ecosystem that we live. Because I used to be a palm oil industrialist, and looking at what happened, I wanted to do something good with our food system, and it turns out health and ecological sensitivity are connected. And of course, we can only connect to them only when we are deeply rooted in our culture and tradition, which includes Ayurveda here. And yeah, of course, I opened Mayam Past Food, PAST. A lot of people thought it was a mistake in the beginning, but then later on learned once they have the meal, they understood the essence of it all. Next slide, please. So when I was a palm oil industrialist, I used to manufacture crude and I used to sell it to my uncle who was refining it and into vanaspati also. And in all this process, I was under immense stress and I was eating all sorts of junk food and sedentary life and general like a undisciplined life. And the consequences of that was a lot of heartburn in me. And then I slowly started to crave for this comfort in my body because there was a huge thing I was missing. I was not able to understand why, although I'm doing everything like physically active in the sense that I'm traveling and doing work, somehow that comfort in my body was never there, and I started to crave for it. Next slide, please. And that's when yoga and meditation turned my attention to my body because I started to observe the effects of food and lifestyle in our body, and it made me a little more disciplined in my ideas. And what happened is effortlessly I started to eat better. I did not have to think too much, okay, I want to avoid these certain kinds of food. It was an effortless measure to reduce the sugar, to reduce the junk, and crave more home cooked food. And when I did it unconsciously for a few months, and suddenly someone came and gave me a junk food, I understood that, something is that to do with the food we eat and how we feel in our mind, body, and emotion. Next slide, please. So then I fell in love with these ingredients. Fell in love with this idea, and then I started to research on ingredients. So a lot of these ingredients are quite indigenous, which are wholesome in nature, and the industrial ingredients have been sort of ultra refined and increased shelf life. The thought behind them are different, and the indigenous ingredients were connected to the soil. So to learn about it, I went and visited the local healers, grandmothers, whoever had the knowledge on them, and invariably they started talking about Ayurveda because that's how we understood it. We everybody might not be a doctor in the villages or anyone, but they understood the six taste, three doshas and three gunas very clearly, and then they started to work, teach me recipes and balancing how to do certain recipes based on these common knowledge as a cultural aspect of our life. Next slide, please. So again, growing up in this day and age, it is invariable that, it's inevitable that we are bombarded with nutritional science because that's a global culture, right? We are talking about trans fat and, saturated fat and all that. When you go into the elements, it might be fatistic, but the overall outlook of nutritional science is also a cultural aspect of a global culture. And I wanted to understand the basics of it very clearly. I didn't want to go into the detail because those details are, dealt by experts. Once they come up with a strong statement, then I start to, observe it. Other than that, both of them have their strengths and weakness because, like, they all have blind spots, and nutrition science gives us the, or more like a better vocabulary as to how to understand Ayurveda, and Ayurveda gives a better understanding on how to see nutrition in relation to each other. That has always been interesting to me, and that led me to here, I guess. Next one, please. So after all this, I have five key elements that I do in my food. It always has to be, sugar levels has to be stable so that the mood is stable. Once we eat the meal, we have to feel calm and satiated. That's the most important for me. And then second one, I always see the flavor combinations. So how do I balance these flavors? Like try to bring all six, perceivable taste, and then play with few things top to bottom according to the season and according to the experience that we are going to, experience that I'm going to be designing. Today's is going to be predominantly sweet, sour, bitter, and pungent and salty. This design is to sort of cleanse your weekly once. If you have in these proportions of what I'm going to show you, your body will start to cleanse itself. That's how they taught me. It will churn your stomach, is what they taught me in colloquial language. And third one is diversity of ingredients. So we in any indigenous culture will have like a diversity of the same ingredient, varieties of wheat, varieties of rice, varieties of pepper, varieties of any spice you take, there will be varieties. So I always look for those varieties and also alternatives. Let's say sugars have like palm sugar, cane sugar, coconut sugar, date sugar, so many. And then sweetener, sour, souring agents are black tamarind, kodampuli, kokum, and lemon, so many. So I keep working with these alternatives so that I find something exciting at times. There might be failures, but when there is success, there's a huge success. And yeah, always stay rooted to our cultural context. Do not try to use science into manipulating the taste buds into something exciting but not relevant for our body. The cultural context is how it reacts to our body depending on how we've grown up, what is our DNA, and all that understanding. So I use science only to slightly refine Ayurveda. And Yeah, when you're cooking, so all the chefs and other dietitians who are listening, when you're cooking, we tend to choose the easiest ingredient, white rice and white sugar. These are all ingredients that doesn't have any character. They'll just latch on to the characters of whatever else we are adding, even refined oil. But for example, using sesame oil, it's slightly bitter. So how do we, use it in certain recipes? Sambar, it goes well, and other what is it, kurambu, what we are going to be seeing, it goes really well. But does it really go well with, let's say, a sweet dish? No. So you have to choose coconut oil or ghee or something else like that. So you have to find out, like, use strong ingredients with character, and then find the right pairing for it. Once you find that pairing, it'll open up a new paradigm in your head. The last recipe will explain this very clearly. Next slide, please. So this recipe is very close to me because myself, an Siddha practitioner and a naturopath, went to visit an Ayurvedic cook to to learn about his ideas. And the first thing he served us is this one, and made us guess for 15 minutes as to what it is. And none of us could guess. And then he revealed that it's just brewed fenugreek with milk. And this recipe, next slide, please. This recipe is a traditional drink served. I was traveling, I was hitting 2,500 kilometers when I reached him. So, this is the first thing he gave me, saying that um, you tend to eat when you're traveling something that is not very pleasant, or like something whatever is available, your system will not be in the right shape. So you always drink this first. It's sort of, the bitterness cleanses your system and the sweetness activates the digestive system, and so you are ridding of all the previous toxins that you have eaten as much as possible, and then you proceed to the main courses. Next one, please. So it's very simple, this recipe. Let's say 1 cup of fenugreek seeds and few liters of water, and then you boil it for 15 minutes, and then you add jaggery, again boil it a little longer, and the coconut milk can be you. I mean, he served me with a regular milk. I use coconut milk because slightly commercial. I wanted to attract vegans, so I went ahead with that. But you can use any milk you like, and the idea is that the milk is there to the sweetness, and the milk is there to make it palatable. The main decoction is the brewed fenugreek. It's like tricking you into having something healthy for you. And my God, the jaggery, the right jaggery if you use, and the right proportion of milk if you use, this is a very soothing recipe. And there's no other, like, everywhere I've started this meal, and I mean, in every experience I've started with this brewed fenugreek, and it has always been a success. Next one, please. Yeah, over to you, Sonia.
Okay, so we saw now what how the recipe is made, right? So now let's understand how do we break it in terms of Ayurvedic view. So if you look at the, I will not go into much details of what each ingredient is having, the rasa, guna, virya, vipaka, because most of them have taken our introduction course and they do have a knowledge. In case you don't know about these concepts of rasa, guna, virya, vipaka or effect on doshas, you can please join our program. At the end of the webinar, I will talk about what are the different courses that we provide. So, in this recipe, the main ingredients are fenugreek, jaggery, and coconut. So, you can see that this recipe combines the bitter, sweet, and the cooling ingredients, right? So, we have tikta rasa, we have madhura rasa, and if you look at the qualities, the guna of these ingredients, we have lagu, rukshna, and snigdha. So, there's a balance of the properties. And even the virya, you can see we do have shita, but we do have ushna also. So there's again a balance of the potency of the different ingredients. So let's understand how can we adapt these recipes for the predominant doshas that you have. So for example, if somebody is having a predominant vata dosha, so they can include more of coconut milk and add a little bit of ginger, serve it more warm, and pinch of nutmeg would help a vata predominant person. And if you are somebody who's having a pitta predominancy, then you can reduce the fenugreek quantity, add a little bit of rose water, fennel seeds, and try to serve it cool. So for the vata, you will be serving it a little warm, and for the pitta, you will be serving it a little cool. And add a little bit more of the jaggery. So, for example, if you're using 1 tablespoon of jaggery, you can use maybe 1.5 tablespoon of jaggery. And for the kapha, you can reduce the coconut milk, the quantity of the coconut milk and jaggery, and try to increase the fenugreek because of the rasas, that is tikta and the kashaya. And also add a little bit of black pepper, trick or two, and you can serve it hot. So this is how you will try to adapt it for the different doshas. And then when you come up to the nutritional composition, you can see that, one serving of this particular recipe, the brewed fenugreek, 1 glass is going to give you around 65 kilocalories and 1.25 grams of protein. Fat is 3 grams, which is coming mostly from the coconut milk, and 12 grams of carbohydrate. It is again gut friendly, iron rich, and also a very good option for somebody who's a diabetic patient. But again, you'll have to take care of the jaggery. You can reduce the proportion of jaggery when you're adding for the diabetic patient. Also, it is the fenugreek is used as a galactose. So you can use it also for somebody who's lactating, right? So these are some of the nutrition perspective of this particular recipe. So now let's move on to the next recipe. Yeah.
So yeah, Pandan wrap. So culturally, we don't have a concept called starters. But in my private dinners and in special experience, I needed to sort of like how I added jaggery and milk to the brewed fenugreek. Likewise, this is like a bait. This is like a star, I mean, like a fancy recipe which we had to develop to create interest in people. And pandan being slightly exotic because in South Tamil Nadu they do use it. They call it ramba ilai. And this aromatic plant has a beautiful aroma. And then I wanted to pair it with something delicate and provide a sauce, which again, even though there is innovation, there is going to be Ayurveda or like perspective included in it, which we'll see. Next slide, please. So, pandan as a cooking ingredient was introduced to me by a dear friend from a backyard garden. And when I visited her home, she gave me, wrapped it in a chicken and, slightly cooked it with coconut oil. And I immediately fell in love. But I am not someone who would promote the industrial grade chicken because the production method. I mean, it's a huge webinar on its own why it is not suggestible. So I wanted to sort of bring it into the philosophy of Mayam. And for that, I sourced really high quality paneer, which is almost tasting like a cheese, a good cheese, or fillet fish. So fillet fish makes sure that there's no bone or anything. So these two are delicate proteins. So with this, I marinated them with the southern spices, the common ones that we find. And I specifically avoid chilies because that will take away the entire flavor. And I coat them and then I wrap them in few methods and then I roast them in coconut oil. Next slide, please. So as you can see, these are the marination spices. I pound them. Using them in a mixie will again, like it is like a fine chop. The taste is different, but when you pound them, the cellulose are broken a little more coarsely, and then there's a better explosion of flavor. And also, each bite will surprise you because you might be biting into shallot, one bite, garlic, and the ginger, and the pepper also is like slightly broken. So all of this brings your attention to your palate. If it's a smooth paste, I don't know. It just feels very cohesive, and at the same time, it doesn't make sense in your head. But each bite, when you keep it coarse, then there is an attention going back to what you're eating. That's very important in my recipes. Next one, please. So again, you take all the spices, pound it, and then you marinate it in fish or paneer, like not more than 15 minutes. Like you don't need to. You can even wrap it and keep it in the fridge for the chefs who are listening. You can keep it in the fridge for a day or two. Nothing happens. But it doesn't really add any extra value to it because when you're cooking, all the fats are going to absorb this flavor and give you beautiful, protein parcels. Next one, please. And when you're cooking, make sure that it is in a thick bottom pan. Cast iron is the best, or else some tri-ply steels are good. And once you place like pour the oil, place this on top of it. I mean, place it like how it is shown in the picture, and avoid to I mean, allow it to slightly brown in each side, because fish, again, you guys know that it doesn't take much long to cook, and paneer honestly doesn't need any cooking. So make sure that it's slightly brown them in all sides, and then it must be ready within 5 minutes. And keep it in medium low flame. And again, alternatively, if you find fats a little uncomfortable or like not suggestive for your health, you can always steam it. Steam it for again like 5 to 7 minutes max, nothing more. But coconut is important. A fat content, even when you're steaming, is very important because fat is the binder of flavor. Next slide, please. And I always serve. So you might have been thinking I spoke about, the sweet, sour, salt, and I never brought it up in this particular recipe. That's because the sauce that I'm going to be serving is going to be this. And most of the recipes that I'm teaching today, the brewed fenugreek and the sauce here and the few more recipes, as I'll tell you which ones are inspired by my Ayurvedic cook teacher called Ishwar Tirtha. He's from Shimoga and he's a second generation Ayurvedic cook. So he is the one to teach me that sweet, sour, spicy. When I say spicy, it could be pungent and bitter. Uh, this combination will always stimulate the digestive system and sort of help you in purging the toxins. Next one, please. So for this, it's oh yeah, the aged tamarind. That's very important. So culturally, we have been eating only aged tamarind as a medicinal tamarind, and the young ones are quite sharp. Even when you taste it, like the young ones are a little more sharp and edgy, I would say. But the aged tamarind is well-rounded flavor it gives, more mature. So, and it's black in color. So what he did is you just place native coriander with the roots, and then you sort of boil it. I mean, sorry, you steam it in bedagi chili. These two are steamed, and then you remove it from there, and then keep some of the chilies aside. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, you keep some of the chili aside and make sure that you're using the right proportion. So there is no recipe, like I haven't shared the specific recipes because that can be deceptive, because some chilies might be like, more spicy, some might not be. So you have to identify all this and then mix them in a proportion that brings out the balance between sweet, sour, salt, and spice. And you do it in a blender. Don't use any mortar and pestle. It is better, but it is also a lot of time consuming and not really worth it. So put them in a nice blender and make it into a smooth paste and serve them both together. And it will continue your digestive system. Like it will keep the fire alive in your digestive system when you have it with this sauce. Yes. Next one, please.
Okay, so we saw how the recipe is made. Now let's try to again break it down in perspective of Ayurveda view. So you can see that we have here rasas like Madhura, Tikta, Kashaya. Sorry for that. Yeah. So we have recipes. We have ingredients like paneer, which is again giving you the Madhura rasa. You have the pandan leaf, which is giving you tikta and kashaya rasa. Then you have ginger, which is giving you katu rasa. Along with that, the properties of these recipe ingredients are also, you can see that it is laghu. We do have a mixture of guru, ruksha, tikshna. So it's trying to balance. All the ingredients are trying to balance each other. And as Vijay was saying that the Tikta Kashaya Rasa can actually add the digestive balance and trying to, ignite your Agni as well. Also, the Veerya, if you see, it is again Ushna and Shita in nature, so trying to balance the both. So how do you basically change this basically change this recipe according to the predominant doshas? So, if you are a vata predominant person, the protein basis can be either paneer or fish. Again, for the pitta as well, you can use any of these, kapha also any of these, but the quantity has to be little taken care. In terms of fat, if you see vata predominant, you can use ghee. For a pitta person, you can use coconut oil. For a kapha predominant person, you can either go for a groundnut oil or a safflower oil. And the spices that you have to emphasize on for a vata predominant is ginger, cumin, turmeric. For a pitta person, it could be a little bit of add mint or fennel seeds. For a kapha predominant person, you can add a little more of pepper, tricketu, and tamarind. So, in case of vata, you have to make sure that you reduce the quantity of the pepper or the garlic. And for the pitta person, you can actually reduce the quantity of the spices, that is most of the chilies or garlic, tamarind, as it can cause a little digestive disturbance for the pitta predominant person. And in terms of kapha, you can reduce the molasses that is used for the chutney and coconut oil. The quantity can be little reduced, but you don't have to like literally avoid it or restrict it. So in terms of chutney, you can see that all of these items, that is the tamarind, the chili, coriander leaves, the molasses, the rock salt, all of these are trying to stimulate your appetite. And these ingredients are termed as Deepana Pachana, right? And it enhances your digestion because it has a mixture of sour, sweet, spicy, and salt tastes. Right. So how do you do the nutrient analysis for this? So one serving, that is one wrap of this, the pandan wrap. If you're using either paneer, you will be getting almost the same energy or the fish. But the protein here, there's 1 gram of difference. So energy is going to be one, not 1 kilocalorie. Protein is going to be 5 for the paneer and 6 for the fish. Fat is going to be 5 grams. Carbs is going to be zero point 0.9. Fiber is 1 gram. And there's calcium because of the paneer, and iron is also there, 1.5 mg. For the chutney, if you take 1 tablespoon, that's going to give you 30 kilocalories, and carbs is going to be 5 grams, fiber is zero point 0.8, and vitamin C is 6.8. So overall, if you look, it's a good protein-rich wrap, and it is again like gut-friendly because it has healthy fats and spices that can help in boosting the digestion and the immunity. So now let's move on to the next recipe. So before we move on to the next recipe, we are open to take questions since we are on time. So if anybody has any queries, please unmute and speak, or you can put it in the chat box.
Good morning, everybody. So there is a question for Vijay. I'll kick off this session. Rakshit had a question about the fenugreek drink. Is it okay to skip the milk altogether?
Yes, absolutely. You can skip the jaggery also altogether. Like I said, the essence is the brewed fenugreek. That is the medicinal aspect. The milk and the jaggery is just to make it palatable for you.
Okay. We now open it up to the audience. You can unmute and ask your question. Any other suggestion for the leaf if I don't have access to pandan?
Turmeric leaf.
Hmm.
I've done that. Yeah, turmeric leaf also brings a very nice, subtle earthy aroma to it.
Nice. And that's easier to procure also sometimes.
Yeah, because it's available even in your backyard, you can grow. Or even in a pot, I think you can grow these days.
That's right. Yeah.
Also, the molasses, I think I skipped the molasses part in the previous recipe where, so it is coriander, red chili, molasses, salt. These are the main ingredients.
Okay. Geetanjali has a question. How about colocasia leaf? What we make
Colocasia leaf
pakode
does
out of.
not have any aroma to it.
Yeah.
And it is more, I mean, patrode and things, these are the traditional recipes we make with it because they have a higher anti-nutrients, let's say. So it has to
Okay.
be treated very differently.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, even the choice of colocasia leaf is a little nuanced. You can't use any colocasia leaf. You have to make sure that it is not too rubbery, or in fact, it will catch on the throat.
Yeah, yeah. That's the anti-nutrient I'm talking about. That's a burning sensation. So we are looking for aromatic leaves.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a question on jaggery. Is any kind of jaggery? So Niharika, I'll attempt that and I'll pass it on to Sonia and Vijay to give the cooking and the Ayurvedic perspective. But let's just say that jaggery is processed sugarcane juice. It varies depending on which sugarcane you have started out with and how the processing takes place. I think in India, the jaggery industry is extremely fragmented. So it's very hard to say, I don't think any jaggery is bad per se, but I think from a public health perspective, we always advise that jaggery is not a substitute for sugar. Jaggery has a much more, it is flavorful. So from a sugar point of view, you're still getting the same amount of sugar, but you're getting a lot more intensity in terms of flavor when you use jaggery. Vijay, any comments on the jaggery? And then Sonia.
Yeah, so the jaggery, for instance, that like you said, it's very fragmented, and way it's made is using sulfuric some acids also. In the past, I don't know now, and I say in the past, like many 5, 6 years ago. These days, all the jaggery that I find are mostly made with this okra water. That was a traditional way of making. We ferment the okra water, and that fermentation has some acidity to it. So that is used for making the jaggery. And there is no thumb rule that the darker the better, because they then start adding darker additives to it, so make it darker. But the taste, so I have had so many jaggeries in my life, and the ones that I like are the dark brown ones, which has a deeper taste. If you want to know more about how to identify this taste, I do conduct a food sense workshop where I can teach all this. But in your home, you take again the raw tamarind, the brown tamarind, and the aged tamarind. When you eat both, you will feel the difference of the taste, the roundness that I'm talking about. So in any jaggery, when you feel the roundness, it has more molasses content, it has more depth of the sourness to it. Then I find it very applicable to make various recipes. Yeah.
You want to just clarify, Vijay, when you say aged, like if I buy store-bought, say, store-bought tamarind, how long should I keep it to make it aged?
1 year minimum in a closed container. You can ask for aged tamarind. And also, I recently found that there's a very famous brand in Bangalore. They were selling aged tamarind. I soaked it in water, and the black came out fast, and then inside was all brown. So there also they started to have additives. So it's a challenging time to identify which is real and not real. That's why I exclusively conduct food sense workshop and other workshops to educate people on how to fight with the producers as to how to maintain the integrity of our ingredients.
Yeah. Sonia, do you your comments, please, on the jaggery and versus molasses, because clearly there are many different ways in which sugar can be deployed.
Yes, sure. So, as a dietitian, if you would ask me and somebody comes to me and asks that is jaggery better choice than the sugar, then I would definitely say no, because both of them are going to have the same effect on your body. All I would say is whatever you like, even if it's a sugar, the refined sugar or the jaggery, add it to your dish, but just be sure of how much of quantity that you've been adding. But comparatively, jaggery has little more minerals than the refined sugar, but nowadays we can't trust how much of minerals is present in the jaggery. So it's up to anybody's choice that if you want to go for a jaggery, you can go for it, but again, please take care of the portion size. That's something very important.
There's a challenge question for you, Vijay. We have a participant. She's one of our students from our Ayurveda Dietetics course, but she's from Turkey. Any suggestion for her as a replacement for Pandan? She's suggesting grape leaves because that's easily available to her.
Grape leaves and these things, again, I have friends in Turkey, so maybe I can help her out after the session, but because I don't know what grows there. But anything that is aromatic and edible, that is the best thing to go with. I don't know what grow. I don't. Banana grows there?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Hello. Yeah, let me pitch in. I'm the student that asked the question. So yeah, we have bananas, but the leaves are not used in anywhere. So that's why they usually just get rid of them from the farms. Like it's not something that we can get our hands on. So we usually use grape leaves for, doing a lot of dolma and sarma. Maybe you have tried them. And they tend to be either subtle in flavor or they can be a little bit sour. But we don't usually prefer the sour ones. We prefer the subtle ones. So we can add either sweetness or sourness based on what we put in the rice. So not because of the leaves. That's how we can control the dish. So I was very interested in your recipe with the pandan leaves, and I've heard that before, but it's not something that we can recreate in Turkey. That's why I was a little bit curious about how to make it more Turkish friendly.
Yeah, so I would be more curious as to what is the compatible oil with it. Traditionally, you have to observe how these leaves are cooked in certain recipes and use those formula to work on this recipe, the wrapping of the proteins. So,
Okay. Thank you. We usually use olive oil
oh
in
yes.
most of our dishes.
Okay, so then, I mean, sweetness and olive oil is slightly bitter. So I'm curious how this will turn out. Maybe even I can experiment and let you know.
That would be amazing, actually. Thank you.
And actually, that will be very relevant because even in our courses, a lot of people ask about olive oil, and it's a recent entrance to the Indian market. So I'll be curious to know. Okay, I want to thank Dr. Vaijayanti, who has talked about jaggery. And she says that Kama Rupa jaggery, that which is made in Assam, is supposed to be the best according to Bhaishajya Ratnavali. Thank you. That's very, very interesting information. Okay, one last question we will take and we will stop here. Celery leaves instead of pandan.
No, no, no.
All
So
right.
celery leaf is more like a herb, no?
And it'll be difficult to wrap also. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has a
And
very intense flavor also.
that is good for the sauce. Celery, leaves can be good for the sauce.
Ah, yes, yes.
As a herb, it is good. Yeah. You can even use dill leaves. You can use other leaves. You can experiment again.
Okay.
Alternatives, surprise me. Let me know.
Right. So let's go back to our recipe deconstruction and we'll break a little later after a couple of recipes for Q&A. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to the fish kuzhambu, right? Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite recipes to share. And this technique, I don't know anyone else have been using, but what I'm going to be sharing with you is quite personal also and very vulnerable because if you don't credit me, I'll not feel nice. Next slide, please. So fish curries are very, very, what can I say? Emotional to the peninsular India because we use a lot of them we use a lot of variations in them. For example, different fishes, different souring agent, and different spices, different oils. Like in western part of peninsular region, they use a lot of coconut oil, and then in the eastern part where I grew up, we use a lot of sesame oil for it. But the emotion of all of this is the same. And when there's a fish korambu in the table, when I say korambu, it is a sour sauce. It has a global potential. I don't know why it is not recognized as much as it has to be. We experience just incredible. It is a insatiable sensation you get, and it is never enough to stop. And this recipe is quite laborious to make because it involves a lot of skills and hours to put into it. If one of you can make it, I'll be super happy. Next one, please. So this recipe involves my home cooked recipe. When I go to my village, they make this recipe for me. It is very simple for them. They take the whole fish, they cut it into, they clean it out, and then they make a base out of coconut and few things. I'll show you in the next slide. And they just boil it as it is, meaning they cook it without the broth. So I'm going to show you with the broth how to make it. So next one, please. So make sure that the fish is in the room temperature. and not cold, because when you're cutting the fish, it has to be in the room temperature. So fillet the fish carefully, remove the bones, and keep the bones careful. I mean separately, and salt the fish, salt and turmeric apply to the fish, and keep it aside because it's gonna take 5 hours to even. I've done it for half a day also. So keep that aside and then move on to the next step. Next step, please. See, what I've done is I've poured the bones into a pot, and then I keep it in simmer. You cannot boil it with roll boiling. You are never supposed to do. You keep it in the simmer, and then you add all the spices. You add coriander leaves, some garlic, shallots, pepper, jeera, fenugreek, or you can go with anything that you like. Keep experimenting and keep cooking. So once that takes many hours, like three, I mean, you have to reduce it by half, or like you have to reduce it by one third, so that the broth has a intense aroma to it. It will tell you when it is ready. Of course, you can salt it in the end. Always add salt in the end, not in the beginning. That is Ayurveda 101 for me. So yeah, collect the broth and keep it separately, and then move to the next slide, please. And for the base of the curry, it's very simple. You remove the seeds and the skin of a tomato. These both are just passengers in our system. They're not going to add any benefit to our system. So I always try to remove the things that are not necessary. So you do this and then add some coconut, garlic, jeera, and tamarind if you want. I don't use like add tamarind while blending, but you can if you want to save time, and blend them into a fine paste. This is the base of the curry. Next slide, please. So now you add sesame oil to it, and then your mustard, jeera, or any other spice that you like. You can add green chilies. Like when you add green chilies, what I do is I brown them before adding the other ingredients, like shallots or other things. Because when you brown the green chilies, the flavor of green chili is there, but the acidity is not there. I found it very interesting. The Ishwar Tirtha taught me about this recipe and this technique on how to use green chilies without giving me acidity. And I was suffering from acidity, so it was highly helpful for me. And yeah, so then as usual, you once it's popped and browned, and you keep adding the next ingredient. Next slide, please. And now you add the paste and roast it a little. The roasting will add less like slightly smokiness to it. And once that is done, I just pour the broth directly into the pot instead of saving it, because in this to give an example, I made this. Normally I make a lot of broth and even keep it in the freezer for me to use it for other recipes. Even cook rice, and more things can be done with those broth. So then I add a little bit of chili powder. Chili powder for me is like a slight color thing. It doesn't really do any. I don't want the chili to take over in any of my recipes. So I do that and then I allow it to boil for about 15 minutes with the after I pour the tamarind, because tamarind has to be heated for about 10-15 minutes so that the quality, the acidity actually slightly changes. Next slide, please. Yeah, now in the end, you add after boiling for 15, even 20 minutes if you want. You can use any thickener if you want. You can use rice powder, you can use tapioca, not tapioca, any other, tapioca is overused, but any other thickener. Don't use cornstarch or anything. I actually use red rice. I blend them with, soak them, and then I blend it in mixie, and then I add it as a water like a milk, and that thickens the fish curry. And then I add the fish and allow it to boil for only 3 minutes. It normally cooks within 5 minutes, so I always cook it for 3 minutes and I shut the heat. The mud pot, the reason I use mud pot is because the heat will be retained for longer and the fish doesn't take much to cook. And after 3 minutes, I just shut the heat and I let it sit for 10 minutes before serving. And of course, the following day is much better. Uh, so yeah, please try this recipe and let me know. Over to you, Sonia.
Okay, so let's now try to break it down in perspective of Ayurveda. So you can see that this has a mixture of rasas. We have Madhura, we have Lavana, Amla, Kashaya, Kattu, Tikta. All the rasas, different rasas are present in this recipe. So all together is going to stimulate the Agni, the digestive fire of the system. And coming to the guna, it's guru, snigdha, lagu, then tichna. So again, it's a balance of the other properties of this ingredients. Virya, again, we have most of these ingredients are ushna in nature, but we do have coconut, which is going to balance a little bit of ushna and the shita. Vipaka, if you see, it's more of madhura, amla, and katu. And yeah, so the bone broth that we saw is actually deeply nourishing. It's called as balya in Ayurvedic terms, and it is rejuvenating because of the presence of the rasana foods, that is ingredients in the particular recipe. And also, it is helpful in bone marrow tissue support in terms of Ayurvedic, because since all of these ingredients are really good for the bone marrow. So, how can we adapt it for the predominant doshas? For that's for the vata pitta kapha, right? So here, if you see for the vata predominant individual, you can actually reduce the quantity of the chilies, pepper, mustard, because it is drying in nature, and a little bit of spicy. Add coconut for the snigdha guna. Use fresh lime instead of tamarind. You can serve with some ghee on top. For a pitta predominant person, you can reduce the chilies, again, all the spices, pepper, tomatoes, tamarind, and you can substitute the tamarind with some kokum or amla water. And then you can also use coconut oil as it is having a cooling effect. Add coriander, mint leaves, and try to avoid it reheating. Like have it at the room temperature, not like piping hot. For a kapha predominant person, you can reduce the coconut or use it sparingly. I would suggest like you can reduce the portion size of the coconut. Use less oil, add some cumin, turmeric, hing, and you can serve this with millets or the red rice. So this would be a better option for the kapha predominant person. Then, coming to the nutritional composition of this recipe, that is the mean korambu, you can see that 1 cup of the mean korambu is going to give you around 240 kilocalories. Protein is 15 grams, which is coming from obviously from the fish. Then you have the total fat, 12 grams. Carbohydrate is 5 grams, and fiber is 1. And then you have some omega fatty acids, that is 800 mg, which is coming from the fish. Also, vitamin B12 is also present. And overall, it's nutritionally rich because it's high quality protein, and there is good amount of omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin B12. Okay, so now let's move on to the next recipe. So we had in non-veg, the mean korambu. We also have a veg version. So before going to the veg version, let's understand what can you eat this with. So yeah, over to you.
So I have started with bittersweet and then given you a starter, and now this is the main course. The fish korambu is had with idli for me because the porous texture of the idli soaks in the flavors of this korambu and gives you a beautiful texture in your mouth, in your palate. And I always choose again, like I wanted to keep it wholesome as possible and as simple as possible. And this is one of my star recipes. Like the best compliment I've got for this recipe is when in my restaurant in the beginning years, there was a lady who was, pushing the cycle with a great smile, came to my restaurant and said that I dreamt of your Italy and I'm back here again. So that's the best compliment of this Italy I've got. So I'll be sharing it with you now. Next one, please. So Italy was never a everyday thing. It is today I would equate it to slightly into the fast food culture because we did not have grinders. There's a huge piece I mean, there's a small piece I've written about grinders actually. If you check out my page, you'll know because this grinder was discovered or like made only in 1970s. Before that, we used to make this laborious task of grinding it by hand once or twice a year for festivals, and it was a delicacy. So it was not an everyday thing. It has high acidity, and you always drink more water to compensate. I at least do that when I eat idli dosa. Um, so I particularly like using whole grain. So I keep it very simple, just a maple samba rice and then sprouted urad dal or even soaked urad dal, like black urad dal, not the refined one. And then I ferment it overnight and keep it in the fridge for more than 3 days and then I use it. Yeah, next slide, please. So the measure is 4.5 cup because if you use 4 cup, I noticed that it sticks to the pan. So 4.5 cup of maple samba rice. For other rice, it will vary. And 1 cup of whole urad dal, which can be sprouted, and some fenugreek and beaten rice to help in making it rise like this. So this is how it rise. Like it's more than 50% rice. I do not fill it. I mean, I keep it, let's say, in a 1 kg container, only half a kg I'll fill, or even one third, and rest of them are fully fermented like this. I love this variety. Next one, please. So as you can see, it is always tone grounded. I do not like using mixies because it'll produce a lot more heat that it'll uh, kill the bacteria necessary for you to have a better fermentation. I get to enjoy the lovely, like the fluffiness of the idli only because of its ground in a idli dosa grinder and not a mixie. If you do it in a mixie, you cannot expect the same level of finesse. Next one, please. Yeah, it's very pretty clear, right? We have to, after grinding, we have to keep it and like mix it in a thing. See how much it was? Yeah. So it is not going to fill up the entire vessel, but during fermentation, it will fill up the entire vessel and even pour out sometime. That has happened to, at least in temperate climate like beach side in near Pondicherry, that has happened to me often. But in Bangalore, it really fills up to the top and then sits there. And of course, don't take a risk of your hands because we don't know what you're touching these days. I do use a little bit of hand, but I always use spatula to make sure that the good bacteria are present in that. Next slide, please. So I like to cook it in a cotton cloth. In this video, I have not used cotton cloth. But normally I like to cook it in a cotton cloth because the porousness of the cloth will give a even more like a fluffy, the texture is definitely different. You have to try to believe. And yeah, other than that, if anybody is new to making idli, you just buy the idli maker, spread a cloth, pour this on top, and steam it for 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes because it's whole grains. I think for white rice, it's less than 10 minutes, but for this, it is definitely 20 minutes minimum. Next one, please. And yeah, of course, if you're using a cotton cloth, you have to flip this back of the side, sprinkle some water and remove the cotton cloth. If you're not using, then apply some oil or ghee or anything, and then you will be able to remove it like the way it is shown in the video now. Next slide, please. Yeah.
Okay, so this particular recipe, we usually use the polished rice, which is the white rice. It's also called as idli rice. Here we are trying to use the mapilai samba rice. We will see what is that particular rice. We will see a photo of that. And then we are using sprouted black urad dal, not just the black urad. We were sprouting the black urad and then we are using it. And fenugreek seeds, beaten rice salt. So, if you look at the rasas, it's more of madhura and kashaya because we are sprouting the black urad dal. There is kattu rasa and there is lavana as the salt is giving. So the fermentation is going to enhance the sourness, that is the amla rasa. It is this particular recipe is more nourishing than the polished rice because you can see that the more fiber is present in the mapalai samba when you compare it with the polished rice. So um, um, key points of this recipe, it's vata balancing because it's dominant due to the warm and soft fermented texture because of the presence of urad dal and fenugreek seeds. Pitta, it's a neutral, I would say, for the pitta person because when you're serving it, you can use a chutney which is having more of the shita kind of ingredients. So not very spicy or you can actually avoid consuming like piping hot. For the kapha, it is moderately can be consumed, best eaten when it is warm and with dry or pungent chutneys like ginger, mint, curry leaf, which can help in balancing. So how can I adapt it for the vata pitta kapha? So for the vata predominant dosha, what you can do is you can beaten rice can be little, reduced in the quantity, and you can reduce the fermentation time if there is excess sourness, because that can cause bloating for the predominant vata doshas. And additional tips, you can add 1 tablespoon of grated ginger to the batter. You can also serve it with some ghee or sesame oil. Use warmer chutneys like ginger or curry leaf chutney. And for the pitta, you can use the rock salt or minimal salt. Add 1 teaspoon of dry coconut to the batter, or you can use it as a topping. Serve it with mint or coriander chutney. And for the kapha, you can reduce the sprouted urad dal because it is obviously heavy in nature, it's guru. So reduce the quantity of the urad dal and the beaten rice, because it can cause sometimes kapha increase in your body. So try to reduce the quantity of the beaten rice. Use less of the urad dal and more rice. Add a pinch of trikatu, which is a mixture of ginger, black pepper, and pipli. Serve it with spicy chutney or some rasam. Okay, so nutrient composition, you can see two idlis per one serving is going to give you around 121 kilocalories. Protein is around 3.2 grams. Fat is around 0.65, and carbs is 31 grams. Fiber is 1.8 grams. So this is a difference between the the rice. If you see the first one, this one is the Mapalai Samba rice. It is having around 2.9 grams of fiber per 100 grams. And the white polished rice over here, it has around zero point 0.2 grams of fiber. So that's why this recipe would be a better choice in terms of nutrition and in terms of Ayurvedic perspective. Okay, so next we'll move on to the Milagu Kodambu. Yeah.
Which is the veg version of the mean korombu. So korombu is basically, like I said, a sour sauce made out of tamarind, or it could be with kokum or any souring agent. So here I've used the black tamarind, and this Mizhagu means pepper. And it is also known as Marundu Korambu because you can add some, edible weeds, medicinal weeds to it, and then make it even better for you. I've not done that for this thing. For that, if you come home or like if you take my workshop, I'll teach you how to forage this, the greens, identify and forage, and then make it for you. Next slide, please. So it's a very Tamil recipe, this one, from Tamil Nadu. And like I said, kokum, kudampuli, various variations are used in it. And I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so it is a little it might look a little complex, but when you break it down, it's very simple. One is for the spices, other is for the top picture is the spices that are going to be used as a masala, and the bottom one is the sauce itself is made out of. So it's as simple as that. You can come back and or take a screenshot or anything, and then this is the proportion. Yeah, next one, please. Next slide, please. So now it is very important to dry roast these chilies and the coriander. You cannot roast them in oil. It will change the entire aroma of the dish. So once you dry roast them and then you pour the oil, like sesame oil, cold pressed sesame oil, nothing else. You cannot replace it. Maybe olive oil, yes. I think olive oil also has a similar property of sesame oil in taste. Ayurvedically, I'll leave it up to Dr. Mega, but otherwise, I think it can be used. Um, yeah, now you brown the chana dal and then add the other spices, and again the hing as a fatida. It's very important to use the best quality. Do not use the LG hing or like the adulterated one. If you flip them and notice, you will notice that there is less than 1% of actual hing in it. And this will also add a beautiful flavor to the entire sauce. So make sure you source the finest one. And yeah, of course, after you roast it, cool it down, blend it, and then keep it aside. And for the sauce, you make sure that again you use cold pressed sesame oil, the best quality you can find. If you want, I'll guide you. If you write to me, I'll guide you where you can buy the best. I can give you the discount code also for it. And then yeah, you start by adding the other things like the mustard, and shallots and garlic. I like to mash it. Traditionally, we mash it a little and then we add it. and I do both. Let's say I'm taking 1 cup, half a cup, 1 cup of garlic, half a cup I mash it, half a cup I don't, because I like the taste and texture of the one that is not mashed, and the one that is mashed actually adds a little more depth to the entire sauce because the juices are allowed to soak in by the fats. So very important to brown the garlic for me. Like you have to brown the garlic before you add in the rest of the meaning shallots and other spices. So now you pour in the tamarind paste. So after this is all cooked, you can add little bit of tomato if you want. I don't use it, but if you want, before adding the like tamarind, you can use a little bit of tomato also. And now again add the tamarind paste and allow it to boil for about 10-15 minutes. And while boiling, check for sweet. What is it? The jaggery you have to add, salt and tamarind. The balance between all this has to be according to your day and time. Meaning tomorrow you might need more of sourness, today you might need little or little less. So you have to taste and tell which one works for you. That's why I don't give any specific recipes again. Next one, please. Yeah. So Milaga Colombo. This is how I normally serve it sometimes. And like I said, the aged tamarind gives a very well-rounded flavor. The sharpness of the entire sauce is reduced so that you feel little more. Maybe the first bite might not be as exciting as a brown tamarind, but the more you eat it, you will slowly, like, keep wanting it more. It is always about how you end the meal, not how you begin the meal. The initial taste might be good, but is it enough for you to keep eating, keep asking your body, keep asking for it? That's the trick that aged tamarind provides for you. Yeah, this sauce can be refrigerated for 2 weeks, or like sometime if you're lucky, if you're not, using any moisture, if you cook it long enough, you can even keep it for a month. I've kept it. And just a spoonful of this before every meal sort of balances, like, so like I said, these taste profile will help you in cleansing the system. So once in 2-3 days, I keep going back to this sauce from my fridge. Yeah, next slide, please. Over to you, Sonia.
Yeah. So this particular recipe, again, it is having the different rasas, that is kattu, kashaya, tikta rasa, madhura rasa. It is mostly ushna in nature, that is heating in nature. We don't have much of the shita ingredients in this particular recipe. It is kattu tikta dominant, and the spice infused sauce that we are using for this recipe can actually stimulate the agni, the digestive fire, and also help in cleansing the ama and reduce the kapha related sluggishness. So this would be a best choice for a kapha predominant person. So how do you change it for vata pitta kapha, right? Here, if somebody is vata predominant, you can reduce the excessive use of pepper, red chilies, and also the tamarind, because sometimes it can cause heating, and I mean, it is too heating and drying in nature. So you can add stigna gunas, like for example, you can add some ghee, coconut milk. And for a pitta predominant person, you can reduce the quantity of tamarind, pepper, red chilies, mustard seeds, garlic, and hing. Consider replacing all of the tamarind that you use with some kokum, or you can also use diluted buttermilk as well. And for the kapha predominant person, you can reduce the jaggery, the sesame oil, the quantity of the sesame oil, Bengal gram, and also reduce the quantity of coconut oil or the ghee. So, looking at the nutrient composition, one serving, for example, if you're using 1 cup, that is 250 ml of this Miracle Columbu, you will be getting around 141 kilocalories. Protein is going to be 2.7 grams, and total fat is 5 grams. Carbs is around 17.5 grams, and fiber is around 1.2 grams. So altogether, it's a the particular recipe is laghu in nature. It's again like gut friendly, rich in digestive spices. There is prebiotics and antioxidants. Also with a low calorie, that is less than 150 calories per serving. Okay, so now moving on to the last recipe, the dessert. Yeah.
Let's break. We've got three very exciting recipes. So there aren't any specific questions from the audience, but I think I will get that going. For the fish kalamba, the main kalamba, uh, any other types of fishes that can be used?
I normally use a large fish.
Hmm.
Uh, there is something called tenga pare in Tamil, which I think is like a parrot fish or something. It is all line caught fish.
Hmm.
In Bangalore, I feel very disappointed to use fish because it's not fresh and it's not right. It just doesn't feel right.
That's right. Yeah. And I
Then
think there's also a seasonality to fishes, right? I mean, although they can be frozen, we shouldn't be using whenever.
yeah, so in fact, there is a page called Mean Scientist in Instagram. He has a beautiful chart on what to use, what not to use. And if you're confused, it's very simple. The cheapest fish in the market is in season. And always find the right vendor. You know, it is a relationship that you have to develop with that person. So I catch the huge line caught fish, and then I fillet them at home, and then I make a huge quantities of broth. Like I said, I keep it in the freezer, the extra. And some of them I use it in the pandan wrap, and some of them I use it in the fish kuzhambu, and then I finish it. But the broth remains because when you use a huge, like larger fish, the broth quality, the taste, everything is much better.
Sonia, I thought you might want to talk a little bit about the EPA for some of our audience.
Yeah. So the omega-3 fatty acids, if you see that is the EPA, you will usually get it only from fish. And for vegetarians, it's kind of little difficult to get it through. So they end up, having the fish oil or the cod liver oil for the EPA. And this the EPA is going to help you in, the brain development. Usually we provide it for the patients who are having neurological issues. So, in a clinical condition, we usually give the EPA for the neurological conditions. Also, if somebody is having like a major road traffic accident, we provide them with the EPA supplementations as well.
Yeah, and this is just to clarify that we say that you can get omega-3 from vegetarian sources like flaxseed oil, right? But that is actually just alpha linolenic acid, and that has to be converted to EPA, and a very small part of it is converted to EPA. So to get it from uh, natural sources is best. And I want to also clarify that fish don't make it. Actually, fish eat other fish who have it, or those fish eat algae who make it. So the actual uh, microorganism that makes it is the single-celled algae and cyanobacteria that live in the ocean. Okay, Priya has a question, and that's to do with storing of the sauces or broth in the fridge. Do you think it affects the quality of the food? And Sonia, for you, does it affect the body?
So it definitely affects the quality. And at the end of the day, you're going through a laborious process, and I don't want you to, enjoy it just for a day. So of course there are compromises. I started my restaurant without a fridge. Then after 3 weeks, or sorry, 3 months, I fought with the ladies in the kitchen, and I got them the fridge, and I told them it has to be empty. So that's the starting point for using fridge for me. But today I start to understand that, okay, see, of course the first day is the best nutritional quality. Second day maybe it is little better. I mean taste wise. But once you keep it in the fridge, it is more to do with a conscious compromise, let's call it. That's how I see it. I don't know how to break it down into the science. I think Sonia will explain it better.
Yeah, so the refrigerating of the bone broth, like it depends on your, the accessibility and your comfortability. So if you're somebody, very busy and, you don't have some time. So I think refrigerating would not be a big issue, but unless and until you don't refrigerate for more than like 3, 4 days. So I think 3, 4 days should be okay. And also there are a lot of recipes, which says that you have uh, the old fish curry, which is really tasty. So I think 1 or 2 days should be fine. It does not affect much, refrigerating it. So yeah, 3 4 days maximum could be the refrigerating period, and after that maybe you can not have it.
Maybe we should also clarify between refrigeration and freezing.
Freezing, yeah.
Sonia.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
refrigerating is just the normal, the fridge that we use. Freezing is something like you put it in the upper section, that is the icing. But refrigerating is maybe around 14 degrees Celsius, and 4 degrees Celsius is going to be the freezing. So if you are going to freeze it, maybe you can use it even for a week. And if you're doing it in perspective of like refrigerating, then you can use it for 3 4 days. That should be not a problem.
Small clarification. The fridge is 4 to 5 degrees Celsius, and the top part is minus 18 to minus
Minus
2.
3.
Yeah.
And also when you put fats in the fridge or the freezer, it breaks down and it is not the best to have it. But like I said, it is a compromise you make, and if you can eat it, I sort of live alone, so I do this. But if I'm living in a group, I would make it and finish it within 2 3 days. Even without refrigeration, the second day is the best. That's what I would normally do. And one more thing, before refrigerating, if you want to increase the third day, make sure that it is evaporated completely. It has to be completely in the room temperature before you put it in the fridge. It has to be sweated out so that the moisture is not there.
Vijay, question for you from Shweta. In the fish, I know we made with the shallots also, but anything else, any other protein that you think will work well in the kadamba, mean kadamba?
Fish kuzhambu, I mean, there is one recipe that I haven't tried yet, but with moong dal, they make like a tofu kind of a thing. It's
Mm.
traditional also. And then I have not experimented, but I'm thinking out of my head like that.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
maybe jackfruit. I haven't tried it.
Ah, yes, absolutely. The katal, the raw jackfruit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I haven't
Yes,
tried, but
yes.
it could be interesting.
Raw jackfruit, breadfruit,
Yeah.
although they won't be very high in protein, I would imagine. What say Sonia?
Comparatively lesser, I would say.
So the moong dal is our best winner at this
Yes.
point of time. Or tofu. Mm.
Yeah.
Moong dal tofu. I mean, like I'm saying tofu, like it's not tofu.
Oh, I see. So you like
Yeah.
milk the moong dal and make tofu out of that.
It's more like sprout them, steam them, mash them, and something like that. I saw a recipe like that in YouTube some point.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think even moong dal, just sprouted moong dal will work in the
Yeah,
it's not
texture
going
is
to be the
what they
same,
want,
but
right? Like a
yeah.
protein parcel or something, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Actually, Ishwari has made a comment about cooking utensils, and I thought it would be nice, Vijay, for you to talk about it because in this recipe, I've used that clay pot, and bhajana is a process for using different utensils, even in Ayurveda, in terms of process. So, your comments on cooking utensils and for home cooks, let's say mostly, what would you consider a good repertoire to have?
So cooking utensil again, it has to be a separate webinar, I think, because it's very beautiful and complex. For example, let's take the mud pot. We do not source a mud from a random place, but from a river soil, like where it is naturally the river has cleansed I mean, like the finest mud is what we use it for making clay pots. And of course, there are some nutritional benefit to it, which are very minuscule. You cannot say that if you have some deficiency and if the pot has it, if you use a pot, you will be sort of compensated for that deficiency. Always take what is recommended by your doctor for the deficiency, and to not slip back into deficiency, maybe you can use these cast iron and these kind of pots and pans. And another benefit of using mud pots is the moisture again. So after you cook it, the mud pot will sort of remove all the excess water from it and increase the shelf life. Even you can try this. You can make any of these recipes and leave it in a steel kadai or a plastic box, and one side and the other side leave it inside a mud pot. You see the taste difference because the mud pot will have a better taste because it adds layers of complexity to it and removes extra moisture from it. And that for me is the most beautiful element. All the health benefits and all, I do not see it as a big thing, but the beauty of using it and the sensorial experience you get out of it. And it's also the labor of love, right? The way you maintain it. You do not use soap to it. You do not use any chemicals to it because then your food will also taste like that. It is sensitive. So then it has to be a regular process. It's only for people who love cooking and not for like someone who cooks once in a while. That's something I would say because it can get moldy also. But always choose mud pots. That's my recommendation. Fall in love with cooking, keep cooking. And cast iron again, the same story. The heat spread, like it takes long time to heat up, but once the heat is retained, it is beautiful, and all the things that you cook in it are equally charred, and some bits of the iron also comes, but again, it cannot satisfy your deficiency. But once you solve your deficiency, it can maybe maintain it. That's my thought behind it. And even soapstones, same thing. Soapstones also, it sort of removes excess moisture and gives a even heat spread. Again, if you are interested, like if there's enough traction, we can definitely do one whole session on it.
And I just wanted to add, I always prevented myself from getting a mud pot because I thought, who's going to clean it? Like it's going to be difficult. And I was gobsmacked how easy it is, with some water and a little bit of tamarind, just scrub it out. It's so easy to maintain. I was quite surprised. And it's much more low maintenance than the cast iron, actually.
Yeah.
I'll answer Rania's question in the chat. Let's go ahead with our man. I'm really hungry. To Ragi panna cotta.
So this is a recipe again. It is written a traditional dessert because in Malnad region, again, Ishwar Tirtha taught me this recipe. It's called kilsa. It is made out of ragi milk. And I am someone who don't copy but steal. Of course, I credit him also. So I stole the idea and then I made it into like because the texture became like a panna cotta. It is also one of the favorite things in my restaurant for people to have. When they visit me after years, also they ask me to make the idli and this few more things also. But yeah, these two are the best compliments I've got. Next slide, please. So, like I said, it is inspired by kilsa, and the texture is almost jelly-like, and it takes a long time to prepare. Again, if anyone prepares it, I'll be very happy because I used to do this all by myself, and now I have a small team to do it. But yeah, it's incredibly like demanding recipe. But once you fall in love with it, I think you will invite your friends to cook this in your kitchen. So the idea was you have to end your meal with astringency. So now, how do I add astringency into a dessert? There are two ways. One is to add the like what is it, betel nut on top of it, and another is to add chocolate. If you observe, this is the beauty of Ayurveda. Like once you learn the essence of Ayurveda, once you embody it, like once you feel it in your body, anything you taste, you will be able to observe the quality of it and make sense out of it. So chocolate is actually astringent in taste. So and ragi, coconut, and chocolate are and jaggery. These four combination, like I said, all four are hugely like high in character, and they all come together so beautifully in this recipe. So again, see, ragi has an intense character, coconut, cocoa powder, jaggery. So like this, it took me some time to understand the pairing of all this. There are many more pairings that I do, but then this is the example I was talking to you in the beginning, how to pair strong characters together. And note this four elements, it's beautiful flavor. Please try it at home. Next slide, please. So you soak the ragi overnight and then you sprout it the following night. And then once it is there, you grate the coconut put them in a blender. Like when I say blender, of course, you can use the grinder. That's even better. Like I actually use grinder for a better taste, but blender will also work for you. But make it into a very, very fine paste, and a little bit of heat in the blender is fine. You don't have to worry too much. Of course, like I said, wet grinder is better. Wet grinder is better, but mixie also works. Next slide, please. And make sure that I forgot to mention, make sure that you strain it with the cloth. So if you strain it with a normal strainer, then there will be the texture will not be like panna cotta. It will be more like uh, a badly made payasam. So you will not enjoy it. So you have to make it with the cloth. So yeah, now once the milk is made, pour it into a thick bottom pan, not a cast iron, because the jaggery when you add it in the cast iron, it starts to leach. So make it into a neutral pot. I haven't tried it in the mud pot, but stainless steel thick bottom always works. Tri-ply. Tri-ply is important. Again, maybe a different webinar will talk about it. So now you start adding the cacao powder, mix it very well, and then jaggery and a little bit of salt if you want. If you're a chef, you'll know that chocolate and salt is a great thing again. Like it will open up entire new imagination in your head when you do that. So now you mix it very nicely and then start heating it. Next slide, please. So once you make it, it will be like a lava, meaning it will be very viscous and nice, and all the raw smell would have left. And now you pour it into a cup or anything that you want. If you notice the first picture, it had a different, like, it was standing on its own. I did not pour it into a cup. That's because that has a little bit of wastage. I pour it in a large tray, and then in a five-star hotel, what we do is we sort of mold it out, and then the rest can be eaten. And in five-star kitchen, they don't even respect; they throw it. So I found it sustainable to use a cup like this. So I pour it into a cup. Again, I allow the moisture to leave. When it's hot, you have to pour. When it's cold, you can't pour. So when it's hot itself, you pour, allow it for few hours overnight. I mean, like few hours outside, and then refrigerate it. In winter times, you can leave it in your terrace with a cloth. That's how the original recipe is made. They make it in a tray and then they cover it with a cloth and leave it overnight in the winter time. Next slide, please. So before, oh, sorry, slightly one slide before. Yeah. So before serving, don't serve it too cold because Ayurveda, if you're all following, I'm sure you all know that eating too cold is not good. So before service, 1 hour before service, I always keep it out so that it is slightly maybe 5 to 7 degree lower than the room temperature. It's the best to have it in that time and in that temperature. And before serving, finally chop some betel leaves and some betel nut on top that will add astringency flavor to it. And ending the meal with astringency is important because it'll arrest the digestive system and it will indicate that okay, the meal is done. I'm nutritionally satisfied. If you use white rice and other like weak character ingredient as I call it, you might still feel hungry, but because you've eaten a wholesome meal and ending it with astringency, it is a perfect way to end a sensorial experience where you're feeling completely satiated and you feel completely calm and happy throughout the like until the next meal. For 6 hours minimum, you'll feel this, and that's been the biggest compliment or like the my aim in my food also. I wanted everyone to come with hunger, eat mindfully, and leave with happiness that will stay with them until their next meal, and they don't even feel like snacking in between after this meal. So that's very important for me, and I hope you try all this and then get to feel the things that I have felt, and I'm happy that if you feel it, I'll feel very happy. Yeah, over to you, Sonia.
Okay, so this awesome dessert has obviously the Madhura rasa, but again, it has the Kashaya rasa, the Tikta rasa, and Katu rasa as well. And coming to the guna, it is mostly mixture of Guru, Laghu, Rukshna, Snigdha, and Veerya again balance of Shita and Ushna. So how would you change this recipe to the specific predominant dosha, right? So if it is for somebody who's a vata predominant person, you can actually reduce the quantity of the cocoa powder and also the betel nuts, because these are drying in nature. Also, you can skip the refrigeration or maybe reduce the time. As Vijay was saying, you can keep it longer, you can keep it outside for a longer time and add more snigdha guna. And for a pitta predominant person, you can reduce the honey, cocoa powder, and the betel nuts. Just reduce the quantity of that. Also, avoid overeating the spices or the pungent toppings. For a kapha predominant person, you can reduce the jaggery, coconut, honey, and cold foods. Again, the same thing. Avoid overuse of heavy and moist ingredients. So, altogether, this recipe combines the grounding qualities of ragi, also the cooling effect of coconut, and the digestive stimulation of the betel for the holistic nourishment. And coming to the nutrient composition, per serving is going to provide you, so that per the small glass that you saw is going to provide you 155 kilocalories and 3.25 grams of protein, 1.32 grams of fat. Carbs is around 30 grams. So altogether, again, it's a functional dessert, a plant-based dessert, which is rich in the fiber, antioxidants, and calcium that is through the ragi. Okay, so we are at the end of our webinar. Um, so do I do the courses list now, or once we take up the questions, we can do it now? What do you think?
Let's do a couple of questions and then do that. And I think I would like Vijay to talk about the kind of different things that he can do as well. So
Sure.
maybe 2-3 questions and then we do next steps. Okay. Question from SN. If we can use agave syrup or coconut sugar or date paste instead of jaggery for this dessert?
Absolutely, yes. So the syrup can be used on top. And I don't know about the other, what are the other options?
Agave syrup that come from that cactus, no? And then
That can be on top, you can add instead of honey. Then other things, if it is compatible with the ragi,
yeah.
it is, and chocolate, it is more than welcome. But again, I have to put my hands on it, try it, and then tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There aren't any other questions here. I think I wanted to just poll the audience if they would be interested in a session on utensils with you. So if we have enough traction for that, maybe that could be something we do next. So audience, if you can just actually turn on your video, that would be great. It would be lovely to see who we are talking to. And just for a minute, that will be really nice. And in the meantime, I would request Vijay first to talk about things that he does, and then Sonia can talk about the Ayurveda dietetic program courses. Go ahead, Vijay.
Hi. So yes, I started with this restaurant called Maiyam Past Food near Auroville, where I experimented. I was not inside, outside Auroville. And then it was an experiment to learn how to get initiated into these concepts, or how I can practically implement my ideas. And now I'm more curious to, sort of share the experience via workshops and, retreats, and even, private dining experiences, where the thought has been a subtle form of education, where I plant a seed in our head and then allow it to slowly grow and nurture, so that we slowly gravitate towards these wholesome practices of our culture. And I'm not saying the modern way is wrong. Modern way is also necessary, but also both sides has to be questioned, and then we have to sort of co-evolve with this ecosystem, where we are consciously choosing, okay, this is the direction we are heading. We are not blindfolded into a direction where it might go into a dead end, but consciously we are shaping a food system. That's what I'm passionate about, and anything related to that I offer in my services. And I'll be sharing my PDF with you on, how, what all I'm open to do, and all my ideas and philosophies in a small 2-page document with a lot of pictures, of course. So
And we are going to share that with all the participants, so they'll have a way of getting in touch with you. Yeah.
Please get in touch with me. And if you want any specific requirement, let's say one of the recipes, if you want to really learn, you come to me. I will teach you the recipe end to end. I'll give you the recipe sheet and in an Excel format where you can use it. Even in a restaurant, home, anywhere you like, I'm happy to share these things with you all.
Super. We'll just end with Sonia's comments.
Okay, I'll just quickly, so there are a lot of people who are new to our webinar. So I just take you all through quickly what a TDU we are doing. What is this Ayurvedic Dietetics program? So the Ayurveda Dietetics program, sorry for this. Yeah, so this is just an pie chart of how many dietitians and nutritionists we have trained in our program. Uh, Totally, currently we have around 1,520 dietitians in our altogether who have completed our course, and in 1,520 there are around 1,141 dietitians or nutritionists, and others 379 includes the yoga instructors or Ayurvedic Vaidyas or anybody who loves to, understand the relationship with food and Ayurveda. So majorly we are trying to look into the concept of, trying to train the dietitians so that they can include that in their practice, which will benefit the patient. So this is just a statistical thing that I wanted to show you, that we are in our program, there is around 10% of registered dietitians who have enrolled in our program and completed our program. So we in India, we have around 900 dietitians, and among that, we are happy to say that 91 registered dietitians have completed our program, which is again a big achievement, I would say. So, introduction to Ayurveda dietetics. Here we are trying to, so the all the vocabulary that you saw, the rasa, guna, the rasa panchaka of certain ingredients, all of that will be taught in our in our program. Also, we try to discuss on personalizing the diet based on the season, the quantity, and the food, various food combinations and the dietary practice, and how can we integrate the modern nutrition science perspective with the Ayurvedic food concept. So, all of these will be taught in our program. And along with that, this is the lesson plan. So maybe you can come back and write to us. This is available on the website, our Ayurveda Dietetics program website, which will be seen through the TDU website. So you can go into that and you can see these are the topics that will be covered in our Introduction to Ayurveda Dietetics program. Then we have another program that is the Advanced Ayurveda Dietetics. So Introduction to Ayurveda Dietetics is a 15-hour course, which is 1 credit course, and Advanced Ayurveda Dietetics is the 30-hour course, which is again a 2 credit course. So this is suitable for the dietitians, nutritionists, Ayurveda doctors, the biochemical scientists, yoga professionals, etc. And to do this course, you'll have to first finish the 1 credit course, that is the introduction, because this course is more into the practical aspect. And also, we invite various doctors around India, and they will be specifically talking on different diseases, right? And we have 3 units in our course. That is the unit one, that is theoretical concepts in Ayurveda, which is more relevant to the clinical dietetics. And in under unit 2, we talk about the Ayurvedic culinary aspects. And unit 3, we talk about the different diseases that is done by the like the Vaidyas. So it's called as the master classes by the Vaidyas. So just to give you what we did in our last program. So these are some of the topics, that is the diabetes, particularly retinopathy, cancer dietetics, managing the acid reflux, bloating, constipation, then fibroids, intermittent fasting, CKD, MASLPD, then psoriasis, then AST. So these are some of the examples, but we keep changing our disease condition, the clinical condition, and we have various Vaidyas who come and speak pertaining to the specific diseases and how can a diet play a major role in that particular diseased condition. Then we also have an internship in Ayurveda Dietetics program. So we recently finished our batch in July. So here, basically this is an experiential learning, hands-on experience. So you try to have like a practical experience in the Ayurveda clinical dietetics. You will be trying to shadow the Ayurveda doctors, and whatever cases you will be seeing, you will be creating the integrated diet charts. So we have a discussion. So whoever patients you're seeing, you can come back to us and then we discuss and plan on the diet. Basically, more of the hands-on experience that we get. And also you will be able to see the panchakarma treatments, what is happening, and then the dietary management for the patients at our hospital. Also, try to look at the scientific kitchen that we have at TDU. There is a food forest, and based on all of this, you will be trying to, create diet charts for the specific patients. So this is just an overview of our courses. And this is just a deliverables. We have a workbook. We also have we also have we have a training manual for our introduction to Ayurveda dietetics, a 90-page manual that will help you to understand, how you can plan the diets. So we also did a survey which showed that the Ayurveda food concept knowledge before they took our course, what was the rating, and after they took our course, how much was the rating. So we have comparatively moved up to the, from 2 to 5. So they are using the training in their practice. Yeah, so this is the resources that we have generated. So the training manual, you can see this one. This is the training manual that we give for an introduction to Ayurveda dietetics. And this is the workbook that is provided for the internship in Ayurveda dietetics. Also, there's a Rasa Panchaka book that we have included in our manual that gives you the Rasa Panchaka of most of our fruits and vegetables and also the spices. Okay. Okay, so thank you. And the next batch we are having for our introduction to Ayurveda dietetics is from 19th of August. Everything is uploaded, will be uploaded on the website, and I will soon share the details with all of you whoever has registered for this program.
Okay, where will I get the book? Book, the one which you mentioned about the Rasa Panchaka?
Yeah, so that is already included in your training manual. So if you see,
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's included in your training.
Okay, there is one more question actually. So we talk about the each products, rasas, gunas, veerya, vipaka, and doshas, how they impact the doshas, which you actually shared in the recipe. So like in our modern nutrition, we have the nutritive value reckoner, ready reckoner of each ingredient. Do we have something like this for that? Because it becomes very easy to refer which food has what guna and what rasa, and then you can kind of work it around.
Yeah, we have some websites now, but thanks. I think we would like to get to the ready reckoner, but I really need some funds to have a person work on it. So we have right now with for fruits and vegetables, and we'd like to expand that to oils, cereals, and proteins. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be waiting for this, and if I can be of any help, do let me know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're very happy and excited. Thank you, Vijay. That was such an amazing session, and I want to appreciate both Vijay and Sonia who've been working for the last 3 weeks to put this together so coherently. It was not an easy task, but they pulled it off. And I think this is going to be the first of many such deconstructions that we're going to encourage, because we believe that food can be enjoyed, as a biochemist, as a dietitian, as a consumer, as a chef. So why not let us all enjoy all of these perspectives? So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to having you for all of our other webinars. And of course, want to have Vijay back. There's some interest for that culinary utensil workshop, so we'll have you back soon.